You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
Let's make sure that our audio
is working.
We are live. We are live, and that is a beautiful shot of a sun. Hopefully today we will be getting to show you a capital training op on CC.
We will be.
That's awesome. And so we start with a beautiful blue sun, and then we are going to get to see some explosions.
That's the plan. We'll see if they follow through here. They told us we would see explosions at this location.
Sweet. So what are we? Is that a burgundy disco shirt? I don't really know about it being a disco shirt. It is.
I think it's the color.
It's an iridescent sort of. This is a really nice Express shirt. I'm a big fan of it. But yes, I guess I could disco in it if I felt like it. And now I have. I think last week we were doing this, and people were talking about a new hairstyle for me, but it was really just me, not. Like, I skipped going to the barber for like a week because I got sick, and so I ended up with like a faux hawk by accident. This is now back to my normal hair, because clearly hair and fashion, what is Mittens wearing is the first priority on the fucking Meta Show.
Yeah, but that's, I don't know, it's hilarious. I'm going to take a moment here before we get started to take a reminder that Twitch Prime does exist. I learned this pretty nicely a couple days ago. I ordered something from Twitch. Or not Twitch, Amazon, and got Twitch, Amazon Prime for free, which also gave me Twitch Prime, so I subbed to myself. So free $5 to myself there. And then a whole bunch of other free stuff that they do, like TV and all that. So if you, and free shipping, so that was nice. So basically
Bezos bucks.
Yeah, basically paid for what I bought, just getting the free Prime for a month. So yeah, if you have that, go get it. It's awesome. Also, Ben over Midship, thank you for subbing real quick before we get going here.
Wow, that's a good name. So, all right, what are we going to be talking about today? We have a few things going on. We are going to be talking about CCP's new balance changes as the top story. We're going to be going over the Rorqual changes and whether there was an issue with Blood Raider Sotio. People say that there was a problem. People say that there wasn't. We'll be talking about that. We have a guest for the international segment, which is Bitey Blackmoon from Goonstorm. He's going to be talking about the Hungarian community in EVE. We're going to be talking about Keep Stars, T3 changes for July 11th, and just various other random things.
Fight that happened this week too.
In Head GP, exactly. Yeah. So one of the things we need to figure out is who our guests are. I mean, we said Bitey is here, so, but who else is here? We have the man, the myth, the legend, Aerith.
Aerith, chief economist of the Imperium and Council of Stellar Management member, is here to don us or grace us with his presence. That's it. Yeah.
Aerith, why don't you, before we get started, before we go into our top story, why don't you introduce yourself for folks who are unaware of your munificence?
So, according to Reddit, I'm the Antichrist, I insider trade, and I'm a narcissistic sociopath that wants to ruin their game. And at least that is partially true.
A job well done. I would hope
so
for
the
nothing
qualifications.
Less. Basically, the standard qualifications for being a top-level member of the Goonstorm Directorate, as well as one of the bare necessities before we even allow you anywhere near the CSM, is you do need to be a sociopathic narcissist. So, awesome. So you're a Goonstorm CSM. Congratulations. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Yes. Dirk is asking whether I have a stuffy nose. I am recovering from a cold of some kind, and so if I periodically start coughing or sounding weird, that's why. Feeling pretty good overall, but it's in that phase where like there's just phlegm, and so you guys get to enjoy that. So before we go to the top story, let's do some shoutouts.
So shoutouts. We said Ben over Midship. Thank you for subscribing. Agami Ito, 14 months in a row. Thank you, sir. And then Diesel 1975 says 2 years with the Imperium and 7 months with INN. Thank you for 7 months. So yeah, I'm excited because we're going to do our top story, and it's going to be a doozy. So. Now, I promised our constituents the audience that is Theta Squad. There's like 200 people in the channel at this time. They said I gotta smash Fozzie, but I told them I can't, because I don't think this is Fozzie that's causing this. So we're gonna dive right in, and the first thing on the plate is the Rorqual gets whacked again for the third consecutive time since release. And I believe it was Eris that tweeted every 1.5 months they've whacked it, every 90 days.
Well, I have opinions about this, and I'm sure that Bode also has opinions about this. But let's put Aerith on point here, because I mean you are both our senior economist as well as a representative to the CSM. So before Bode and I give our lesser opinions, Aerith, what's your take on all of this?
Well, I think CCP is very fixated on kind of like the first order effects, right? Which is what everyone can predict. They can say, oh, what is total mining output for Eve? What is total mining output for Null in relation to HiSec? What is total mining output in relation from Goons to everybody else? And then what is total mining output in Goons' best system versus Providence? Like, he actually used that as part of his sort of talking point, right? Goons mine more in one system than Provi does in their whole region. Well, yeah, Provi sucks. But
Provi is basically a shanty town.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So we all know, based on the economic reports every month, that Goons are crushing it, right? Trillions and trillions of ISK of mining going on. I think it was 7 trillion ISK the last one. And the next economic report should even be more LAFO, because mining output will show not only is the mining output high, everyone can go to Z Killboard and be like, oh, and no Rorks died. Like, I think we might have went through May without a Rork dying at all.
We did, actually. April 28th till today.
So if you do the numbers, like, we have this massive economic output with no real downsides, right? So they're going to come for us. We've known this. We had originally said Rorquals were going in extremely overpowered. They acknowledged that. They wanted that to go in that way because they have the viewpoint that go in strong, nerf down, which I fundamentally kind of support, right? I think that's more fun because we all got toys to play with for the last year. Almost no one else in Null got time to catch up to us before they got nerfed into the ground a couple times now. So we got to play with all of these great economic tools. No one else really did, so we have a huge head start. But imagine CCP's dilemma here. They see the massive mining output from Goons and Delve. They know they have to address that, right? It's imbalancing. It's showing that there's a superpower that's dramatically outmining everyone else. It's showing that the density of Null model has probably went a little further than they're comfortable with, right? So a nerf is appropriate. But what they did this time was interesting. In this, forget the work part, the excavator nerf. They went after the anomalies themselves, right? So instead of instant respawning, they're going to have timers. So like a 5-hour timer, for example.
Right.
Well, not only does this sort of reduce the density of Null argument, but the second order effects and the third order effects are way applicable to the meta. For example, mining empires based for renters are getting hugely screwed. Like, Fozzie will probably say something like, well, I think they said this in their announcement, this is only going to hurt those systems that are pinging off the rev limiter according to the metrics they're running. The problem with that is you're ignoring what happens after the nerf. What happens when those people now are going to ping off the rev limiter, not hard, like what they're looking at their metrics, but, hey, the Colossus is gone. I don't really want to mine the large. I'm just going to move this other system. So it's not like only the systems that are maxing out today are going to get impacted. It's going to be all of these other systems. If I'm a miner and I'm in a renting corporation that only has one system, I'm about to get screwed, and screwed bad, especially if I'm off time zone, where everyone logs in and Euro time zone rapes all the belts, and then I've got nothing left for me.
See,
that's right. So if you log in, and I think a lot of the the entire northeastern section of the galaxy is under a renter system essentially, and many of these renters have only rented 1 or 2 systems because if you're mining, you can instantly respawn. So, do you think that the powers that are holding renter systems are going to be able to adapt and what they might be able to do to maintain their income, or is basically mining, renting screwed? What's your prediction there, Aerith?
There, you can definitely adapt. Like, we've already know what the numbers and the model they're gonna have to shift to looks a little bit like. We've actually pioneered some of those models in the past, not because of this reason, but for other reasons, namely cloaky camping and that sort of thing. So you can adapt, but there's going to be a lag time. There's going to be economic ramifications of the turnover time. Renters are going to flee to easier areas. So alliances are just open recruiting will have an easier time inhaling those renters into their model, right? But then that's the second order effects. But then you have the third order effects, which is anyone that doesn't have a consolidated JB network, a consolidated power projection model to where they have capital coverage. Anyone that doesn't have a somewhat dense 40 to 50 system model can't even do what we're going to do. And if you go and look around Eve in the regions that can do what we're doing, CCP just took off half of them. They just eliminated half of them right out of the bat. They can do what we're going to do. So, for example, I used to say CO2 made a really good choice with Impasse. Impasse just got fisted. Like, this is a huge nerf to Impasse.
Okay, can you explain to me, because I mean, I'm going to speak for our viewers who are not economic powerhouses here. I can barely, like, the last time I was actively mining was in 2006, where moving between belts and systems when we'd mine all the croquet out on a given belt was standard practice. So when I was encountering this nerf, I'm like, okay, so we're going to have Rorquals moving between anoms and between systems, whatever. Can you explain to me why Impasse geographically is so screwed under this?
So before, Impasse was very, very powerful because you had one central location that could be your capital. You had multiple tendrils that had really good true spec that you could mine or rat in, that you could project power from your capital, you could keep under your umbrella, you could jam if you wanted to, you had a really good jump bridge coverage. Your people were able to move very freely and make ISK very simply, right? Now what's going to happen is everyone's going to know where your works have to be to get the maximum coverage, right? You don't have a lot of systems that can support 10 to 15 Rorquals, which is going to be about the max in the new system, about 15 or so. So now you've got this scenario where you're going to have more Rorquals than you really have systems to support them. So that now what? So do you cap your alliance? Do you stop growing? Do you let your guys get farmed easier because everyone knows where they have to be and they have to be more mobile? Whereas our model, we have more systems now, not quite twice as much, but about 1.5 times the systems we're going to need already in this new model. So we don't have to do anything, whereas everyone else is going to have to adjust.
So essentially, TrueSec is, so just to answer it in a short way, then, but sorry I interrupted you. It is basically the TrueSec of a region is going to matter much more because you can't simply infinitely spawn the best belts into the lowest TrueSec. Is that what you're?
Well, yeah, there's a certain limit where the TrueSec doesn't matter as much, but you need a certain number of systems to support the number of miners you have. So if you have, say, 100 miners in your peak, you're going to need a lot of good mining systems fully upgraded with good capital coverage. If you don't have that, you're going to get farmed, or you're going to be less effective, or you're going to make less ISK. And no one really has that except for maybe 3 or 4 regions right now. And those regions, except Delve, aren't really set up to capitalize on that.
Yeah,
interesting. Boat.
So I heard this, and this is when I agree with Sword Dragon, it's a rare occurrence. Sword Dragon looked at this and went, "Are you fucking nuts, CCP?" Because you look at Declan. Declan is really long, and it's split up among a bunch of alliances. So even though it's very long, unless they blew everyone around them, which they have at the moment, you're gonna get farmed. That's the reason it's hard to protect people, because it's 4 capital jumps to go from one end of Declan to the other. But where I see this being huge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Aerith, is 2 big places: Veil the Silent and the Renter group, the Renter model they do, which is 1 or 2 systems, 10 billion ISK or so each. They're not going to be able to respawn these. I think you're going to get like 3 Colossals a day at peak, best optional, maybe 2. They're not going to be able to cherry pick. Like sometimes you can cherry pick and delve and then go to the next system and go to the next system. And you got time, right? Because there's like hundreds of systems to choose from. But when you're a renter who owns 1 or 2 systems, you can't cherry pick. You have to bind the whole thing. So you're not going to get as much bang for your buck. And on top of that, you get guys like Pandemic Horde who mine in 4 systems at best. How does this affect that alliance? I mean, that alliance is monstrously bigger than, say, Impasse. Impasse is 3 or 4 times the size, half the alliance size. How does that work for a Horde who has no space to mine in?
They're going to have to substantially invest in more infrastructure. They're going to have to spread out. They're going to have to consolidate sort of how they mine. They're probably going to have to do it in such a way that they make rules, that they don't have drama. For example, the Mercoxic. No one ever wants to mine that when the belt's done, right? Everyone leaves it. They don't want to have to clean it up. They don't want to bring in their Hulk or Exhumer or whatever and clean that out, right? They want to move on to the next Colossus. You're going to have to clean it up now. And not only going to have to clean it up, you're probably going to have to police people not cleaning it up. So there's going to be tons of drama where there wasn't before.
Well, I think that from a political perspective, this might see. Do you think? I'm just trying to do the math here, because mining essentially was in a system where belts would respawn functionally an infinite resource, like an ice belt. right? Ice belts didn't run out. Then they made them so they did run out, and there was all these changes on that. But functionally speaking, you could have free-for-all mining agreements between allies because it didn't matter, because crunch all the anoms you want, and then they'll make more. But now it appears that mining is going to be a very, well, not very, but much more finite resource. And these alliances that have like Swiss cheese regional footprints, where you look at like Pure Blind or Declan, and you've got like 5 allies living together. Each of them have a constellation or two. I think that we will start seeing free-for-all mining arrangements going the way of the dodo, as people need to fight for the better upgraded systems, the better TrueSec, and belts are just getting stripped because people will try to be the early bird that gets the worm. In the scarcity scenarios, people will try to get the belts first, the anoms first, and fight over that. What do you think is going to happen with that?
Well, we've seen this before. Like goons, this exact scenario happened to us in Syndicate, where all the goons that woke up after downtime would rush the belts and suck all the croc.
Yep.
And all the goons in the afternoon would be pissed off because there was no croc left. So
yep.
You know how this plays out, and it's not fun and compelling gameplay.
It goes back to time zone warfare, right? It's like that 10-10 we used to fight over with AAA and Red Overlord, right? You had be there right after downtime to fight over it, and then if you won it, you got the loot, and then everyone else is fucked. So if you're not around at downtime, you're going to miss the Colossal by 5-6 hours. Now, downtime's 11 Eve, 12 Eve, roughly. Say they finish it around 13 Eve. That's your Euros missing out on that. Maybe Euros get one around 2000 Eve, but that's late at night, right? So your Euros are going to get fucked. And then if the Euros manage to get it done, it's going to skip U.S. time zone entirely. And it's going to go deep into U.S. time zone.
I mean, this is one of the things that Dirk is bringing up here in chat, and is essentially for an entire generation, many generations of veteran EVE players. This is in many ways a return to what we think of as normal EVE gameplay, is mining being a scarce resource, and people fighting over mining rights, fighting over ratting rights, and resources being limited. I think it's good for the game. I think it's actually really, really good for the game to have people need to expand their territory. I think it's really good that Rorquals need to move between systems and put themselves at risk. I think that part of this safety, where Goodstorm hasn't lost a Rorqual for more than a month, is bad, actually. And I think that we're going to see a lot of conflict and carnage politically because of it, which...
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. While goons haven't lost Rorquals, they're losing the Rorqual mining drones, which are the expensive part. Bombs can kill these easily, and you'll notice the change here. We have it reported on Imperium News if you want to see the exact numbers for yourself. But it's they're slowing the drones down, which I don't know if I agree with this. I understand, maybe lowering the yield for Rorquals, but the drones themselves are going to be slower overall. 12.5% speed reduction. Someone said that's 1 or 2 seconds less reaction time you'll have to pull them if bombs get deployed. And bombs blow up in 12 seconds. So, holy fuck. Like, if you're not paying attention for just a fraction of a second or two, you're going to lose all 5 of those drones. There goes 5 billion. The Rorquals themselves, like this was brought up yesterday, the Rorquals themselves aren't that expensive. 1.4 bill. You can make that in a day of mining. Maybe 2 days. No, not that big a deal. But it's the drones that are expensive, and CCP keeps hitting these drones. Why do you think they're looking at the drones rather than just adjusting the Rorqual itself? Is it that reason?
Well, I think if I had to guess, it's because the amount of power that you need to project in order to kill a Rorqual, to interdict a mining op in any way, is a lot higher if you have to kill the Rorqual itself. But the drones being slower and more vulnerable and being killable by a bomb allows people to go mess with big alliances as individual pilots. One of our guys in chat here has brought up that CCP is talking about how they need to, Tedrick42 says, CCP said that they want to add more conflict generation mechanisms. I couldn't agree more. One of the reasons why Fozisov is a sucking chest wound that nobody wants to deal with, which is something we were talking about on the Fireside chat earlier. Fozisov is the death of conflict, where you have enemies are so sick of that gameplay mechanic, or don't even want to touch it at all, that enemies who should be shooting each other draw MS paints on dotland maps to just decide how a war is over, so nobody has to do it. So I think it's great.
You want to have a laugh about this? This week was really bad for CCP in the terms of the people that they're like fan base, which is our EVE. I consider our EVE, they're like, we support CCP devs no matter how bad it is. And that's...
I disagree with that, but that's a reasonable opinion. And a lot of people do say that.
But this week, over, I think it was 19 different posts were made going, CCP, are you out of your fucking minds? 19 different ones, all reaching hundreds of comments, all about different little like key things. And you got to wonder for a second,
Jazz
like,
hands.
yeah, I do a lot of jazz hands. Sorry.
No,
But,
I
mean,
was doing that.
but, like,
I was making it. Oh, Reddit's upset about
right, but
something.
to come back
and
to the
lots
Sword
of
Dragon
votes.
thing I mentioned a minute ago, Sword Dragon made this comment in a Jab, our Discord channel. He goes, you want Rorquals in the game because Rorquals doing mining in these anoms is generating more content for the game overall, like more fights, more conflict than they have in the last couple years, right, before Rorquals were anomalies. Because Rorquals are like dreads. They have to siege in order to do anything. So they can't move. They can't run away. And what point is it going to get to, Aerith, where the Rorqual is worth, right now, like someone said, 1.8 hulks? What happens when it gets to 1 hulk? What happens if it gets less than that? Like, are people just going to throw away their Rorquals and say, fuck this, I'm going back to my 100 million-ish ship?
Sure, if it gets down to a Hulk, but it's still going to be a Hulk and a half even after these nerfs. So it's still very compelling reason, and it's almost impossible to kill if you're not a moron.
Yeah, I brought that up to someone. They asked, why not choose the Hulk? I said, because you can't die in this. Like, if you're paying attention, you got 7.5 minutes of invulnerability, big-ass tanks. But Sort brings a point. It's like, if you get rid of these enough, for especially smaller groups, you're not going to see fights. But I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know. I think you're going to see more Rorquals as you're required to move around more, because rather than move around more, well, you just spread them out. But I think Renters are going to get hit. I don't know about the drones, though, because the drones, when they rent their renting system's a little different than the PL one, right? The PL one or NC.1 is like 1 or 2 systems per alliance. Like you rent this system, whereas like the drones, they tend to rent out like almost entire constellations or maybe even regions to alliances. Or they operate all under one alliance and they go by corps. So I don't know how this is going to affect the drones as much. We were trying to talk about this yesterday, but I couldn't really figure out. What do you think?
Well, you go, Aerith.
I was going to say, it's going to cause a lot of internal friction and drama. So I think you're going to have to see the economic models change slightly. There's going to be a lot more rules. There's going to be a lot more borders drawn around what you can and can't do. Like I said, drama. They can adapt. It's just going to be, there's this period where it's going to suck. And then right after you get done adapting to that, they're going to hit you with the refineries, and then your moon income gets jacked.
Yeah, so this is where I wanted to segue this into moon mining. Do you believe, and as a CSM member, you can talk about what you can or can't talk about, of course, but I see this as CCP's trying to get the Rorqual as balanced as possible now, because when moon mining comes out, and you have to mine with Rorquals that moon goo, that's going to be a way to balance it, right? So they may be looking to change the cluster anomalies because now moons are going to show up. And like we went over this earlier this week, there's over 500 moons in a single constellation in the J-L constellation in Delve. One constellation has 500 moons to mine. And these moons will spit out like regular ore, not including the moon goo itself. So could this be a balance change looking for ahead of this? Like they don't want to double the output, rather than looking to like half of this and half of that?
No, I think I know what this is related to, and I don't believe it's moons. But really what I think is driving these particular ones at this time is just the metrics. Like if you look the metrics, they're the most LAFO shit ever. You have never seen one alliance, probably in the history of the game, dominate the economic game like this.
One of the things, I actually have a question for Boat on this, and so one of the things that I have a challenge with is having been on the wrong end of a number of Redditor hate mobs over the years, I pretty much instantly just hand wave and do jazz hands. Oh wow, the Redditors are upvoting something a lot. But Boat said something earlier in the show that struck with me, which is clearly there are a lot of people who do believe that our Eve is the biggest fan base, and there's certainly devs within CCP that kowtow to the Redditors. So what I should have asked Boat at the start of his comment was, the Redditors are up in arms, and they've been spinning up of things like this. I think that these are good changes, but could you actually tell our viewers, many of whom don't bother paying attention to that cesspit, what are they so mad about and upset with CCP?
They're mad. The big one was the FozzieSoft. So that started off the week. It was, should FozzieSoft have to wake up every morning and play an hour of FozzieSoft before he fucking decides to change it? That was a big call. Right there. Make him play his game mechanic. And then with the Rorqual changes, it's like, do CCP even bother to play with this? The BR Sotio today, did CCP even try this themselves? Get 30 devs together and go try to kill it to see what could break. So we'll talk about the Sotio here in a minute because there's some interesting things about that. But it's like, does CCP even play the game? Now Fozzie and Team 5-0 are a big exception to this. Does CCP play the game? Because these guys used to play the game. right? It's not like they never played the game before. Fozzie was in PL notoriously. A couple other members did like low sec roaming and stuff. So they've played the game. So you look at it from a Reddit point of view, and as you read through the comments, the general idea is, do they even play? Do they even see what we're going through, or are they just throwing shit at the wall and hoping that we'll like it? And the Fozzie thing that gets me is a lot of people are mad at Fozzie, but I don't think this is Fozzie. It's who's in front of Fozzie. Like, who's his boss? Who's the person that says, okay, Fozzie, this is approved. Write this, you know? Like, who's the guy atop of Fozzie that's looking at this goes, this is a great idea. The players will love this.
Well, I mean, I guess the challenge ultimately is, so let me narrow this down a bit. So setting aside FozzieSov, and I agree, like one of the criticisms we've had of either Fozzie or whoever is approving him, or the team structure of that team that was doing that, does seem to be just a total lack of understanding of how Sov nullsec works, coming from an Alliance tournament commentator sort of mindset of 5v5 honorable space samurai smashing at each other and not understanding large, macro scale social dynamics. What I'm trying to get at here is, were the Redditors pissed about the Rorqual changes? Like, forget the FozzieSov thing. We all hate FozzieSov, and it sucks.
It ended up being like 10 different things. Like, it's just like one thing after the other. They would just pick a topic that CCP had done recently in the last 3-4 months and go, okay, fuck you for that. Okay,
so that's what sounds like a bunch of Redditors getting their
just like just a big hate mob almost. And it got to a point
kind of
where
Reddit does.
It got to a point where one of the Reddit mods, who I think is a goon, which I don't know who the goon is, but he pulled like all the threads into one thread and goes, wow, this is not common here, and then linked all like 10 different threads and goes, I'm just making a mega thread out of this, right? Like, holy shit. For example,
have the testing up I'm seeing here in chat.
Right.
Let
me look around. The API, they're not local yet. They'll be here shortly.
Okay. Say. Cool.
But API changes, the ones that with Evemon we talked about last week. There was a lot of like, what the hell, CCP? You're not going to fix this. Alpha clones, and the fact that CCP is still balancing things like the Rorqual, or not looking at the sotio, or doing other little things in the game, the Concord skins and ships that they've been flouting, but they're not fixing the most broken thing currently, which is alpha clones. They're not even looking at declared dead exploit, because right now you can train with an alpha clone. If you set a skill and don't log in that account, period, an alpha clone will continue to train while it's offline. So you set 6 months of skills, you just made 6 months worth of ISK in extractors.
But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like, I'm going to do something unusual here. I'm going to step up and defend CCP, right? So to fix a bug like that, right? They have to determine what are the issues that they think are actually the most game-breaking things. So it's true that if an alpha clone can train for 6 months and then you use skill extractors, then you basically have set up a farm of alpha clones that you can then use to generate capital in the game, right? On the one hand, that's bad. On the other hand, it by definition is something that has like a 6-month time frame, or even a 3-month time frame. It's not like oh my god, the game is busted. And the people who are setting up those alpha clone accounts are also participating in the game, and they're invested in what's going on in the game. I have to say, as much as I can criticize Fozzie all day every day for FozzieSov, we learned at FanFest at the nullsec panel that CCP is essentially not going to try to fix FozzieSov at all, because Johnson Stroker had a really good idea. It was brought up at the nullsec panel, and CCP said straight up, like, hey guys, look, essentially, we know FozzieSov is fucked, and we're not going to try to tweak it, because we're going to try to come up with something better, which I believe will be a Citadel-based implementation.
Right.
But CCP, when they got to figure out what they want to do, they have so many dev cycles, they have so many teams, so many sprints that they can run, and the priority of what they have to fix in terms of bugs will often not be visible to the player base. Like, there might be things that are going on that we have no idea of, the sucking chest wounds that they need to patch out in terms of like creating tools on the back end and things like that.
That's why I said the Reddit thing was surprising to me, because I don't see this hate boner. I don't see this, like, I don't see where CCP is doing wrong. They're doing everything they can to fix things that are broken.
Well, that's the thing, is my impression of Reddit, and I agree with you, Bode. I mean, my impression of Reddit is that the sort of people who are going to REVE have to have a target for a hate mob. About once a month, they need to get really mad about something and upvote a lot and try to alter reality through upvotes. When Goonstorm isn't providing a useful hate target, if it's not me or Scion, and we're just over here mining and not really doing much, they're going to turn on CCP, because that's the sort of people that they are.
Right.
But I want to, there are definitely some criticisms that we have regarding the other topic we're going to talk about, the top story, which is
Right.
trying to figure out the looting mechanics for the BR sotio. So maybe we
Yeah,
want
it's
to
so
talk about
we'll
that.
go into that. So the NPC Blood Raider Sotio, it's died for the second time. It died this morning around downtime. Goons were the ones that killed it. There's video footage of this. I don't know if it's linked on the INN report, but one of the goons recorded it. He also recorded opening the wreck exactly 1 second after it died, so as humanly fast as possible. And all that was in the wreck were Blood Raider, like the Sotio mods. And of course, then the FC of the op took to Reddit and said, "This is ridiculous. We spent hundreds of hours looking for it, hours running it, and then it's empty. Like what the hell?" And then CCP turns to the Reddit thread, and we have a CCP guy in there, Paradox, who says, "No, the logs show it drops something other than mods." Now, the only thing what we know for sure that this thing drops is mods or BPCs. Now, which BPC dropped, who knows? But CCP
Maybe somebody stole it.
dropped.
I mean,
Right, and that's all possible. And there's looting bots out there, right? We know they exist. They can loot on the server tick that the wreck appears. Like, they open the wreck, boom, loot. And that would explain why that 1 second video didn't pick up anything, right? So we don't have a death yet. We don't have anyone coming out and said they got it. Maybe they're hiding for a couple of days.
Well,
Who knows?
good on them. I mean, if somebody stole it, that's traditional EVE gameplay. The challenge, I think, is that there's no real mechanic for securing the loot or like anything like that. I want to throw this over to Aerith here for a second. Has the CSM, in a way that you can tell about, talked about any alteration or shifts that you might approve of regarding the loot mechanics of the Blood Raider Sotios?
CSM has definitely voiced their feedback. I mean, CCP's even publicly stated they're looking at it. We don't have any knowledge of a specific fix, but I think it's definitely pretty clear to everyone involved, including the devs that did this is dumb. Like, you can't have nullified ships that can insta-loot and run that had nothing to do with anything, and holding the field means nothing. Like, it's just stupid gameplay. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Gotcha. I mean, one of the things that has been discussed, and we talked about it today on the Imperium's Fireside Chat, is, people don't want to go through the effort of a group raid if there's like basically ninja looting. Like this, one of the challenges of these, events is that it's basically a whole bunch of importation of stupid World of Warcraft style raid drama, which inherently makes my commissar trigger finger very itchy. However, fundamentally, because the Imperium has control regionally, either us or our allies in a period basis of all these things, that one of the things that the line members in the Imperium were bringing up today on the Fireside Chat was, we could just put the whole brakes on this thing, and if we simply don't reinforce it, then nobody gets these.
Right, and you kill anyone that tries to reinforce it. Boom, done. Like,
what do you think? Aerith, do you think that's such a pressure tactic, if it counts as a pressure tactic? Because it either could be a pressure tactic, i.e., we're going to boycott these things and act like they don't exist until the loot mechanics are changed, or that might just happen inherently if the people themselves, because none of our ops are mandatory in the Imperium, if the people choose to just not bother going on these ops and they don't get done at all, then the feature gets no feedback for CCP. How do you think that's going to impact things, Aerith?
I think it could definitely have an effect, because you remember, we're the first. They're going to deploy more of these at some point. We don't have ETAs, but to watch their Jesus feature that they've spent months and months working on land like a wet fart to the player community, yeah, that has an impact. And I think the fact that we're not running it hardly at all now is having an impact. I think if you see a boycott, it just kind of reinforces it. The players don't like this. Fix your shit. I think that always has an impact.
I mean, I don't need to know what the CSM has suggested to CCP, because that is privileged. However, I'm curious what you personally would say. What do you think, Aerith, is the best proposed fix that you have seen thus far, regardless of what you told CCP?
I think the vault and hacking it idea with a great deal of time investment. Like, I would love to see something where there's a can that you've got to spend like 5 minutes to get into, to where it's just a brawl. Can you imagine in tie-dye it being a 50-minute just slugfest? That's a
fighting
lot of time
over who gets to hack the thing. That's actually a really cool idea.
One comment that I liked, rather than hacking, because fuck hacking and any mention of hacking ever, because fuck that, is make the loot that drops large enough, like the BPC large enough, that you only
that
can
requires a
scoop it.
freighter or something.
No, like DST, which can't warp cloaked, it can't cloak, it can't dodge bubbles, or bigger. So a DST, which is a subcap version, or bigger, a freighter, Rorqual, something.
Yeah, like a
is required
vault.
to
Like, oh, that's a really good
you
idea.
know what I mean?
Bo.
Something big enough.
You could have basically
so that,
instead of having the BPCs drop in space, you have because CCP was giving everybody. Remember the loot crates during the most recent like Yule festival thing, where it's like, hey, so the thing drops a loot crate which is the size of a freighter, and then grayscale somewhere grayscale is feeling happy in his pants off not at CCP because I'm actually about to suggest, God forbid, a freighter op, but essentially you have a thing where this thing drops and you have got to put it in something big and heavy, and then once you dock it up, then you can open it up and get at the loot.
Yeah, once it's in the station, yeah, you can grab it, or even make the BPCs just bigger, right? Because that means it's more dangerous to haul in high sec if you're moving.
I think you put them in a station container.
Oh yeah,
put them in a station container. Yeah, something like that.
You can't pull them out of the station container until it gets something like that. Now, that's the hints. Now, good thing is CCP Paradox says they're already looking into this internally. They've been discussing it for a while now, and they're also looking to talk with players once they have an idea of what they want to do and see what players think. So it's cool that he's saying this.
Another thing I want to say here is, like, criticizing CCP, it is a team-based system, and so one of the things that we've seen, obviously the Fozzy-Sov thing didn't work out so well, and that was a flaming disaster area. The stuff that we saw regarding Citadels has just gone from strength to strength. Everything that is related to Citadels thus far has been awesome. Wibla and I, Wibla, the leader of TNT, an Imperium Alliance, we were hanging out together, and we watched the presentation live at FanFest of CCP Paradox. Larrikin was there as well, CCP Burger, and their crew. And they were talking about the AI and all of the systems that they put into this feature. And so, I don't really go way back with these dudes. I barely know them. I know Dark Razor is a great dev and an excellent FC back in the day. But they're a really smart team. And Wibla and I walked away from that with the impression that, these guys were hitters. And so I will do something really risky here and actually express confidence. These guys haven't had much time to figure this out, and it is a solid team of devs that are working on this. So I would caution our people to not treat it like a Fozzy thing.
I agree too. That's the thing, is like at the end of the day, they're going to find a solution. Now, it may take a while, and they're really busy on it, but I'm glad that they're working on it rather than just saying, yeah, it's fine the way it is, just go do your thing, and then it gets boycotted, right? Because I could see, like, it'd be fine if it was the size of a normal wreck, right? Because then you could surround it with battleships, you could do something to defend it, and then you can loot it. But with it being 100K diameter, going all around every direction, a guy just has to uncloak, boom, loot gone. And it appears to be that's what happened this time.
And the other thing is that I'm all about theft in EVE, right? Espionage and any kind of sabotage is one of the things that makes EVE awesome. And so having a scenario where as these things go from Imperium territory to have more iterations of like a Garista's versions, as these things spread around the galaxy, having people find out that this kind of thing is going on and having a combat op to take out somebody else's op and then steal the vault full of loot. I think that's awesome gameplay potential.
Yeah, I like
as
that
opposed
idea,
to an interceptor steals and runs away. I'm actually very curious because one of the things that I saw a lot on the Fireside was a lot more anger about this than I expected. People feel betrayed, not by the people who are stealing the stuff. People do seem to feel betrayed by CCP on this one. So I'm curious, just in chat here, if people want to sound off, whether they're interested in us just hitting the pause button and not running these things until there's a change. Our people and people around the galaxy that aren't necessarily Imperium members, do you guys want to see us just pointedly not do these? What do you think? Boycott, no boycott? Just sound off in chat. I'm just curious for some advice about what we should do here.
These came out roughly around the time they kind of talked about them at Vegas, which a lot of people are speculating, okay, Serpentis is up next. That's the one the faction one they haven't talked about, and that one's up next. And we're looking at a situation where if the Serpentis happens and then Garistas happens, you're going to see Goon interceptor fleets. No one does interceptor fleets better than Goons. And you're going to see the same thing out of us hundreds of times over. You're not going to see just 30 or 40 test guys. You're going to see 200-man fleets of interceptors swarming around, flying around, doing everything. And it just, I like this. I mean, a couple people said if the Russians didn't want to run it, that one time, like when the Russians reinforced it and it didn't show up, it didn't die. They made tests waste like 3 hours of time expecting to be able to loot it. So I do like the idea of boycotting, because you can imagine the trolling of it forces CCP's hand here, right? Because they only have one generated at a time. And if you don't let it happen, like say it spawns in the middle of Delve somewhere, no one's going to run it, because no one's going to get a fleet through there quick enough to hit the thing without it being noticed, you know?
I mean, the reality is that if our people don't want to run it because our ops, like if our line members are like, you know, this is shit unless CCP does something, and why bother doing this until something changes, regardless of whether we boycott it or not, simply people will choose not to go on these ops. Already from, you know, we had today, Saturday, we have our Illuminati meeting and our Kremlin meeting, and we have a fireside chat, so everybody gets together and listens to songs that Chandragan sings, which are awesome. We got 2 songs today. I was very pumped about that. But, you know, already I'd say more than half of the FCs in Goonswarm, at least, have openly stated that they will never run one of these things until there's a change. So regardless of whether there is a boycott or not, already we're at more than 50% of the FC team is like, fuck this noise. And I think that's going to increase.
Even Joe Barbarian, and we all know Joe Barbarian is known for really pushing hard to do things like this. He said that between their group of like looking for this thing, they spent almost 200 in-game hours looking for this thing to find it. Tests confirmed that they spent almost 200 hours with their recon team looking for this thing, including neutrals and everyone else. So that long to look for this thing just to have it moonwalk out, right? You know, it's a lot of effort for what we call it.
I wonder. I mean, Aerith, actually, this is a thing that that Weschelbalg, I can't really say your name very well, is bringing up in chat here, and so I'm going to ask Aerith, because he's great at making puppies angry, more so than me, is if Goonswarm simply stops, and the Imperium as a whole simply stops running these things, do you think that the rest of the game is going to be mad at us for not doing it? How do you think that's going to play?
I think the rest of the game's already apathetic about it as it is. Like, I think everyone recognizes this is stupid. And I think everyone will just say, okay, well, let's just all ignore it until it gets fixed.
Kind of like Fozisov?
Yeah, I mean, hardly anyone showed up. Like, I mean, first one, everyone comes. This one's like, one other place to come. Now, the next one, it'll get to the point, even if they didn't fix it, where you could just almost run them in private, because they're happening all the time and no one really gives a shit anymore.
Right. The only thing
we all fixed.
Yeah, the only thing that showed up today was PL interceptors and test interceptors. That was it. Just interceptors. Lots and lots and lots.
Well, that's very cost effective, because why wouldn't you turn up an interceptors if that's the most effective way to steal it?
Right.
And, you know, already there's somebody on Evo saying that they have stolen a Moloch BPC, and they've got a screenshot of it, so maybe a mock did drop. And, well, you know, of course, you never know. It could be a scam or something like that, but it is entirely possible. I mean, CCP has said that there was a drop, and that thus there is a BPC out there somewhere. Either somebody
I'll be interested
yoinked it, or maybe that is actually a Moloch BPC.
If it really is a BPC, because CCP has pretty big rules, I think, on their cell threads on these, so it could be legit, but who knows? His picture doesn't make it legit at all, because you can't confirm
it's relatively easy for us to find this thing, and even passively find it, because our people are all over our territory, because we actually live in our space, and then prevent other people from running it, right? Because once you actually know where it is, then you just park a recon scout there and make sure that nobody gets it ever.
Just so everyone's aware what's going on in the background right now, this is a test Keepstar on the test server. Apparently we struck a deal with Test to hit their Keepstars that came vulnerable at this hour. So our Capital Super Fleet is currently reinforcing their Keepstar, and or killing it. I think it's a brand new one, and then Test is going to like defend it, I guess, or something. I don't know. So that's what you're seeing in the background right now. But we only have about 15 minutes left. This has been a great topic, because
let's bring Bitey in. Let's do the international hour,
so I'm
and then
click the button
if people want to go back to talking about this, we can continue. But let's do international hour and talk to Bitey.
Okay, so real quick, we forgot the shoutouts. Shoutouts today was Toastmaster 8 for 14 months, and Rishan Starry Fairy. Thank you, sir, for 18 months. He said, fuck Sawsy, I think, was the quote.
Yeah, I think we have even more than that in my scroll back, because we talked for a long time on Top Story.
I tried to look through it. I didn't think I'd missed any. I know we got a couple donations from Shirar, as always, because Shirar always likes to get in the donations. Yeah, that's it for the
I saw a couple of funny so thank you guys for supporting us.
Quick point here to make. In May, Mittens, we did surpass our sub amount. I think between the boat show and meta show, we hit over 100 subs in the month of May, which is pretty amazing. So
Sweet.
that was really cool.
Congratulations. Thanks, guys. Black Eagles in chat.
So awesome. All right, so our international guest today, he comes from Hungary. Or Hungary, I think that's Hungary, something like that. But yeah, I'm excited because that's a beautiful country. And
Bitey, why don't you say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Bitey Backmoon. I'm a director in Goonsform. I'm not sure what I'm the director of right now because I was initially the director of compliance, but then Merkel Chen got a bunch of other people to replace me. So now I'm just doing codes and maintaining stuff.
Part of the corporate compliance team, because we like to have teams in the directorate, which is true because having one person do it is always a risk of burnout and misery. So, Bitey, you've been with us for a while now, and you handle a really sort of tough and gritty job that most people don't realize. You have coded a lot of really awesome stuff for us, but we can't really talk about that here. What we should talk about, though, is actually talking about the Hungarian community in EVE Online. I know that there is a massive community of Hungarians within the Imperium, mostly in Goonsform, I believe. What can you tell us about the Hungarian community?
Well, I think there's not a lot of Hungarians in Goonsform. The community itself in EVE reminds me of something like a soap opera. There are these small groups that rival each other and make alliances and stuff. But what I've seen that Hungarians are mostly loyal to their corp and they just play for the community.
So that is always, now, I mean, I should say that this is bad to hear because conflict and drama are bad for people, but they make for good television. So it's kind of a challenge. Certain communities within EVE do have a lot of infighting. And so what you're telling us is that there is like a soap opera in EVE. Can you tell us some of the conflicts that are taking place within the Hungarian community? What are people fighting about, and what have been some of the big dramas there that the rest of the game might not know about?
Well, I can't say for sure because I'm not really a part of the conflict itself, but I can see that there is tension between some of the Hungarian corps to the point that they throw rocks at each other on the Hungarian channel.
Awesome. I guess. Was there ever a region? I mean, I remember that for a long time, it appeared that there's a lot of the Hungarian community was centered regionally within Fountain in EVE, and that's sort of changed a bit.
Well, from what I know, most of the guys from Fountain have scattered all over the place. Some of them have joined Goonsform. Mm-hmm. I've tried to pick up most of them in our Hungarian social group. So if you're a Hungarian and you listen to this and you're in Goonsform, feel free to join the Goonsform Jabber.
Well, one of the things that we always like to do whenever we're doing an international spotlight is, we get to hear people speaking in their native language. Would you be interested in giving us either a recruitment pitch for your corporation or for Goonsform as a whole, or just whatever the hell you feel like in Hungarian?
All right. Hogyha még mindig a bányászat érdekel, és még mindig nem tetted ki a lábad Nullszegbe, akkor ébredj fel, mert itt van az igazi élet. Csatlakozz hozzánk.
Was that it? Are you done?
Kind of done.
Kind of. There's a pause there. You can keep going.
You can keep going. Yes, please. I'm enjoying this.
It's a Finno-Ugric language, right? And so anything that is vaguely associated with Finns or Hungarians, I think, is always very taciturn, not very, not a ton of words. So please keep going. That was interesting. Say something else that's cool.
Oké, ha vonzanak a nagy harcok, hogyha szeretnéd megszedni magad pénzzel, akkor gyere Nullszegbe és csatlakozz hozzánk.
So this is, I mean, just we're going to Wikipedia here a bit. It includes the Sami, actually a really weird sort of personal note here. We did the 23andMe genetic testing thing, which you could do back before the FDA yanked the approval, and it turns out that my mitochondrial DNA is Sami, like is Laplander from like a bazillion years ago. So I'm like looking up here the Hungarian language and going, oh, Finno-Ugric or Ugric, and it actually includes Laplander or Lappic. Wow. Okay, cool. Awesome. So one of the things that we didn't ask you earlier, and this is moving away from anything international, is you haven't really jumped in. Maybe we should have told you that you could jump in. What's your take on the Rorqual changes, or if you would prefer to talk about that, your take on the Blood Raiders sotio issue?
Well, about the Rorqual changes, I think it have caused a lot of drama already, but there's always a way around, and there's always going to be a way to make lots of money.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so
well, we have about
are
5 to 7 minutes left, so I think we're going to go into our NPC
Nullsec Power Hour.
Nullsec Power Hour, because I do want to talk about something real big that happened this week, so we're going to click that button and go into that. Again, thanks, Spidey, as always. It's fun to hear you talk.
Oh, thanks for letting me be here.
Yep, stay
Hey.
there.
Nullsec Power Hour.
Yeah, so Nullsec Power Hour, we jump right into something that I missed this week. I had to run for quite a while, so I wasn't able to stream it, or I would have ran over and streamed it. The huge fight that happened in Head GP. And when I say huge, NC and PL got their shit stomped, like hardcore. So there was a moon that NC managed to capture in Head. For a lot of people that don't know about Head, Head has 7 moons total, or 6 moons total. Getting 1 moon in Head is a pretty big deal, because then you can do things from there. And they managed to get themselves a moon, and when they managed to get themselves a moon, it was quickly reinforced by all the local residents. Test has moved into V-3, which we know is in direct bridge range of Head. It is also next to GE-8 to help out their allies in GE. And Test dropped supers. PL did a Dread Bomb versus a small bait Dread Bomb kind of thing from Test. Test dropped a little bait on the hook, and PL dropped the house, and then Test turned around and dropped Titan supers. And I'll be honest with you, if PL had anything nearby, Test would have got fucking murdered. Test dropped like 6 Titans total. That was it. That's not a lot. You know, when you're
I was looking at this. You know, I was around for this fight,
right,
and we were about to intervene. I mean, we finally got some fleets there for the last bit, but mostly we had space violence there, nightmares through the first part of the fight.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why PL dropped so many dreads as they did, and the guess that I had was that they were hoping to bait out exactly what Test did. They're trying to bait out a super escalation, but I think that they weren't. My guess is that they weren't expecting to lose the dreads that they put out there so quickly, right?
Yeah, they got wrecked very.
They
fast.
just got vaporized. They pretty much just got wiped off the field.
Yeah, I think that's
even before the Titans and the supers came in. The alternative was that the 30 dreads were to provoke the escalation, and then maybe they would have had like 100 dreads, and then they would counter it with more dreads, but they didn't. I was expecting 30 dreads. They bait the supers out, and then they come over the top with like 100 dreads, but that didn't happen.
And here's the thing that's interesting too. Now, while we're all looking at this and going, "Holy shit, PL just lost 300 billion," it's all in dreads. For the vast majority of this, they lost dreads. Dreads are cheap nowadays. PL does this about once a month. Recently, maybe twice a month. It's a big conflict generation thing for PL, where PL just swings a couple 100 billion. Doesn't give a fuck because they've got it. This is, of course, more dirty money being removed from the game, so that's always a pleasure to see. But what I think it is dreads are really strong, and I don't think PL expected that many brave CO2 and Test dreads.
Yeah,
because
I think the real story here is I think you're right. I think that the story is
the
not.
Supers came in.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could notice if you watch the fight, like you can imagine on the screen right now, if my monitor here, you can imagine like they're fighting over here, and the Titans and Supers say, "Oh, come in over here," and everyone's looking at it, including Jay was commenting that it got to a point where you're looking at it going, they don't have enough facts. If those dreads start firing this away, they're gonna fuck up some Titans. They don't have enough facts. Like, all it takes is PL like pulling this shit off, right? Like, apparently Brave dropped to hell. There were CO2 supers and Titans on the way. They hadn't got there, of course. But it looked like a situation where if PL really did have those extra 100 dreads somewhere, somebody was going to lose a lot of shit. And it was going to be Test. Like, I don't think Test had the facts ready for it. So, yeah, that'll be...
well, I mean, I'm counting right now, 10, 11, 12. I mean, about half of these dreads were NC dot dreads. So, I mean, it's not even like, oh my god, like PL had all their dreads vaporized. So it was about half and half. And
yeah,
that makes me happy.
Waffles.
Because,
Waffles, too.
Yeah, I mean, because I really don't give a rat's ass. I mean, blowing up PL dreads is great, but blowing up NC dot dreads is far better. So, you know, I think politically it was very interesting that... you know, that Test and that, you know, the whole Testco coalition chose to escalate to supers, because even though PL has told everybody, you know, we don't have supers there, NC dot whatever, you know, there could have been another 100 dreads waiting for these guys. It would have been no way of knowing that. So Testco escalating, I think, is the real story here. You know, though 300 billion of dead NC dot and PL does make me happy, but Tesco just going, fuck it, we're going to throw down, is, I think, a massive sort of strategic shift, because historically speaking, Test and Brave and CO2 have always sort of been happy to be batter wives. Now that they're actually like swinging around supers is it was highly unusual. I was surprised. I was watching it live and I was like, what the fuck? They dropped Titans?
And here's the thing that you'll notice when you look at this kill report, something scary as fuck. They don't have a single armor ship. It's all shield. And as we all know, shields don't do well against nuding. And what do new dreads have? Lots of newts. And as we saw with what happened to the J Amaziness giant space poop, once you run out of hardeners because you're active shield tanked, you're dead, right? There's nothing coming back from that. You die in seconds. Doesn't matter how many facts you have. So we're looking at a situation where it's all Hells, Wyverns, and Leviathans and Ragnaroks. And that, if PL really do sneak down Titans, or they sneak down something deadly, it can go really bad for Test really quick.
That is one of the things that I think one of the PL guys, I'm assuming they're PL, they might not be, but Sticky Crystals is saying here is that it's a long bait game for us. I'm not sure what the us is. If it's. But
I get the point. You throw away 100 dreads, and then you
exactly. Here's 30 dreads, 30 dreads, 30 dreads. We saw this on the DTAC W beacon, right? Which is basically PL and friends threw away a ship here, a ship here, a ship there, and then we got overconfident, and then lost a Revenant or two and a whole bunch of other stupid shit. So it is entirely possible that this is part of a strategy to make Tesco feel safe to escalate and then bring down terrible consequences.
Billy's not a moron, right? He's not going to do something that's overly stupid. Like when we saw these Titans, you pretty much knew the fight was over.
But GigX is a moron.
But GigX is, and Brave are the stupidest alliance in the video game. And Brave dropping dreads on PL.
I don't think that Brave is the dumbest alliance. That's a tough...
Dumbest? Between them and the old MOA, there's not much of a difference, because you got to get... I've never seen an alliance like Brave do the battered wife thing so well.
So harsh.
Because they do the battered wife thing.
Just because they're battered wives doesn't mean that they're stupid. It just means that they have bad boundaries and are codependent.
Yeah, so real quick, we're running out of time here, and I love that we
got the boat show coming up next.
No, the boat show is now done, because this summer I'm going to be hella busy. So Saturday boat show.
That's right. So what do we have coming up next?
But we have something special for you. It won't be on our stream, but a guy named Joe Barbarian has started a new thing, and he got Shadragon to do the voiceover, and it's called Planet Eve, and he's taking Planet Earth from the History Channel, or like National Geographic, and he's doing an Eve version of it, where he like a Rorqual in its wild habitat, and it's supposed to be. I saw the preview for this. It looked amazing. We'll wait to see how it sounds with voiceovers. Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. But real quick before we dip out and go to that, I did get an unconfirmed report. Now I don't know if you heard about this yet, Mittens, or not, that T3 cruisers are not going to be what they are now, that they're going to turn into what the Talos is for battle cruisers. So 1,000 DPS cruisers that have less tank, bigger sig, go fast, and do a lot of damage, but if they get shot at, they might die. But they're going to do
a polarized cruiser?
Think about, like a polarized, like a really strong 1,000 DPS brawler cruiser. So it's not tanky like a Zealot will be. It doesn't hold you down like a Recon, like a Rapier or Hugin, but it's gonna do a lot of damage.
I'll
like
believe
T3.
it. I'll believe it when I see a dev blog. Let's put it
Yeah,
like that.
that's what I'm thinking. But that's the leak that I got. Now it's unconfirmed, but we'll see how that goes. Because a lot of people got really excited when they heard that. So.
All right. Well, thank
yeah.
you so much, guys, for coming
Thanks,
on,
guys.
our guests, to Bitey and to Aerith. And I guess stay tuned. I will probably host on the INN channel. Let's host what Joe Barbarian is doing. So
yeah,
you
I don't
can
know how
see
to
that.
do that, but if somebody could do that, that'd be really awesome. Because
Sweet.
There's a link in, from INN. It's going to be hilarious. It's only about 7 minutes long too. So.
I know.
Right.
We need. All right, guys. Well, thanks for
guys,
coming, and we will see you
yeah,
next week.
See you next week.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.